They call him Seatin, the man of legends.
Hey ladies and gents, what is up? It is Seatin here, hello and welcome to a video. Now, the video today is just going to be me having a bit of a rant and throwing out my thoughts about Nightmare Tide and the release date for the upcoming Rift expansion, which is in a week's time. So this video, like, I really hate to admit this, it's not overly positive. So, you know, if you're not just interested in me sort of ranting about this, then, you know, turn off now, because, you know, you're not going to find any satisfaction in this video. So, basically, I'm going to start off by prefacing this. The Rift expansion that is coming up, in its current state, is going to be good. But it has so much more potential. It has the potential to be amazing. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about, guys, is that they are rushing out the expansion too damn fast for reasons that I simply just don't understand. Like, I have no idea why it is coming out next week and not in a few months' time. The only logical reason I can kind of, like, wrap my head around is that they want to release it before the release of Warlords of Draenor, which still makes no sense to me. And I'm going to go on to explain sort of why. Anyway, so start off by, what am I going to say? Something about WildStar. So, WildStar was a game that I loved. Like, I really like WildStar. I had so much fun on the game. I didn't do too many videos on it, but I actively played the game so much. I played from sort of early open beta all the way to launch. I just did so much in the game, played the absolute crap out of it. And, like, I am fairly confident when I say WildStar just absolutely failed. It has failed so hard. It's ridiculous, literally, how much of a flop that game was. It's like 4 months after release, the numbers have just flopped, all the servers are on low, people are quitting, I mean, half of, like, the Carbine team have left, and that is because they rushed the game out too damn fast. They didn't take feedback from the players and spend time sort of reevaluating the decisions and implementations that they did, and as a result the game was terrible, just because, you know, they didn't test it, they didn't make sure stuff worked before they actually pushed it out live, and as a result it was a really bad game. I mean, at its core the combat was fun, but a lot of the just decisions about endgame progression and everything like that, that's where it really tore the game apart, and just, it flopped. And it was just terrible, and I'm really upset that WildStar flopped, because I personally wanted to see it become a success, because I love the game, I love the combat on my Spell Slinger and Warrior, I had a lot of fun with the game. But yeah, that goes on to, like, my main concern, guys. Like, Rift Nightmare Tide has not had enough testing, in my opinion. They announced the open beta like yesterday or something, and I'm not gonna lie, it's like the biggest fucking joke in the world. Like, even if people do, like, everybody logs on now and discovers a load of bugs, they're still gonna be there when it comes to launch. I mean, they're not gonna fix everything, and people have still gone through this content and found bugs and various issues and just kind of, you know, little bits and bobs here and there, but that's not really the point. I mean, I wouldn't say the expansion is super buggy, but it's just the fault of everything. Now, it hasn't had enough time to have a decent amount of people go through the end game. Dungeon testing has been minimal. I know 2 dungeons where I don't know anybody that has done them at all, and those are Return to the Iron Tombs and Return to Imperium Core. I do not know a single player, I may be totally wrong on this, but I do not know anyone at all that has done these 2 expert dungeons. So that is a big concern for me, and I'm just concerned that they haven't had enough testing in general. I mean, my biggest criticism of Storm Legion was it was rushed, and that's what I hated. A lot of people won't understand this, because maybe you didn't play as hardcore as I did, but the launch of Storm Legion was fucking terrible. Like, it was so bad for about a month. Like, Torven Hunters, what it is now, a lot of people complain that the rep grind is too long. It was 10 times worse back in the day. Now you get like 1.2k rep per rift, and that's like with practically how many vials. Back then you got like 300 per rift, and it was so bad, and the rifts were a lot harder, and there were various bugs which meant that sort of your idols would randomly go down, and the rift would just seal in on itself, which meant that you basically lost out on the planarite and currency that you had to farm, which at the sort of start of Storm Legion was very, very rare. Adding to that the experts were just horrendously unbalanced on certain bosses and just kind of lacked any flavor and difficulty. I just thought it was terrible, and there was just a very distinct lack of stuff to do until kind of 2.3 launched and bulked everything out a bit more. There was a distinct lack of stuff to do at endgame, and I'm not going to beat around the bush here. I don't think there's going to be much to do at Nightmare Tide endgame either when it launches. I mean, what do you have? Just kind of looking at your free zones, right? The zones, I must admit, are 100 times better than the Storm Legion zones, but they could be so much more better. Like, I know that sounds a bit stupid, but they have so much potential for greatness. But Tarkin Glacier really needs a few more passes on, because it kind of is all like just this giant snowy landscape. Gabora Reef is pretty solid. There are still a few quests that need overlooking. Dromheim, I think the main problem I have with Dromheim is the art. Like, they only added it in recently, and it's all very kind of like flickery and blurry, and it crashes my FPS. I have like the most powerful machine available for a decent chunk of money. Like, I spent about £3,000 on my computer that I have at the moment, and when I get to the center of Dromheim with practically no players, I'm dropping to like 15 FPS, and that is terrible. And I really lack the belief that they're going to make improvements to, you know, that before the expansion releases, and then there's going to be hundreds and hundreds of players in this zone, and it's just going to fall apart in my opinion. So I'm not looking forward to that. So yeah, once I got through the leveling experience, which I believe is going to be really quick anyway, like unlike Storm Legion, which kind of took about 40 to 50 hours on release, I reckon I can bolt from 60 to 65 in probably about anywhere between 4 to 8 hours played. Pretty damn easily using the 160% XP vials, so I can just bolt through Gabora Reef, do a bit of questing in Dromheim, finish off in Tarkin, and I'm done. Like, literally, that's going to be so quick. And for the majority of people that do have the 160% vials, they are going to be able to do that as well. So they can just, you know, bolt through, and you're going to have people at that endgame level much faster, which will then bring you on to what do you do at endgame? How do you progress? Now, one thing I will say is very, very solid at the moment, and I think is one feature that I would happily say is finished / almost finished, and that is Nightmare Rifts. Like, Nightmare Rifts are really good, they're really fun, really enjoyable, so 10 out of 10 for those, but I don't think those alone will carry the expansion in terms of like other issues that we may have with it, so that's one of my primary concerns. But anyway, so you get to endgame, what do you have? You have Nightmare Rifts, you have the Expert Dungeons, you have Shadow from Beyond the Chronicle, you have one 10-man raid, you have one 20-man raid, and you got your PvP stuff, and the final thing you have is zone events, really. So that's kind of the end game. Like, there are like 7 things to do at the moment. 7, which is really lackluster. There isn't much to do. I mean, if I will actively type out a list of all the stuff that you can do in Rift's endgame at the moment, and it's phenomenal how big it is. Like, you can just do so much stuff. But they are bolting this massive content that a lot of people haven't cleared. I mean, it's got to be less than sort of like 100 people that have actually cleared all of the content, including like hard mode Malforge. There are tons of people that still haven't stepped into tier 3 and are still progressing in tier 2. So I see no reason to rush the expansion out. It's not like there's a massive drought of content. And by pushing this seemingly kind of fairly bland endgame out, it's just gonna make things a bit worse. I really don't understand it just from a player perspective. I may be missing something entirely behind the scenes, but I'm giving my opinion as a passionate Rift player. I want to see Rift succeed. I want to see Rift become the best game that it can be. And if they release Nightmare Tide next week, it's gonna be unfinished, there are going to be bugs, there's going to be stuff that's overlooked. Granted, they can hotfix that, but the launch of a new expansion is a time to bring people in, get them rallied up, the excitement, and there has been so little of that as well. The marketing has been, I'm not even going to like be around the marketing has been fucking awful. Like, I have gone on to streamers that sort of cover Rift and stuff like Towley, Bajira, and they have no idea. Like, these guys have literally brought thousands and thousands of people to Rift. They have given them huge scale exposure, and they haven't even been informed about the expansion. Not to mention the only kind of ads I've seen are kind of random ones around like the internet, pop-ups and stuff. I just think there could have been such a better job done. I mean, it just really saddens me when the amount of like media attention on Nightmare Tide has been practically nothing. It's just like, you've done this expansion, it feels like you're putting out something really, really half-assed, and as you know, I'm so disappointed. Like, really, I want to see. I don't know what I want to see. I'm a fucking consumer. I have no idea what the fuck I want. But I just want to see, like, everybody getting hyped up for the expansion. But there are, like, if I go onto Reddit right now, let's have a look on the Rift subreddit. So, like, the Rift subreddit currently has 22 people on. This is kind of like prime time-ish. Maybe a bit after prime time for both zones. And that is bloody awful. Like, when Rift free-to-play launched, there were constantly, well, both was building up to the launch and launched, there were constantly kind of like 100, 200 people on the subreddit getting hyped, and that didn't really add any new content. It just made the game free, and they are adding in this huge new expansion free. There's tons of exciting stuff, and nobody seems to care or wants to talk about it. You know, nobody even knows about the expansion from what I've spoken to. Like, I have been playing a lot of Arcade, and I mentioned that I've played Rift, and people are like, yeah, is that game still alive? And I'm like, yeah, it is. I mean, they're releasing an expansion in a week's time. And they're like, oh, really? I don't know anything about the expansion. And I was like, oh, well, damn, that sucks, because it just does. Like, the expansion should be something to shout about. It should be something that you're proud of. But at the moment, it's just so fucking half-assed. I'm probably getting a bit too aggressive in this video, but whatever. My emotions are coming out. So, basically, right, like, you have a foundation for a fucking amazing expansion, Tryon. It's so good. It's just amazing. The foundation is good. It needs time, it needs love, it needs care. You need to test stuff more, you need to add in more features, like, for example, like, instant adventures in each zone. I haven't, like, I mean, me and Will briefly got into one on Gaboru, but for Drawmheim and Tarkin Glacier, no instant adventures. Zone events, I believe there are only 1 or 2 in each zone. That means a maximum of so far, I don't know if anybody else has seen this, but I've seen like a maximum of 1, maybe 2 zone events in each zone. So that's like 6 zone events to launch with. People are going to get fucking bored and annoyed if that Stillmore had more zone events than that. Come on, guys. Like, it's just every aspect that I look at the expansion, it needs more time. I'm not trying to, like, put the expansion down. I'm just trying to say it has the foundation to be an amazing expansion. It really does. It could be like the best thing since sliced bread. And I think if you delayed it an extra 2 months, it would be. I know 2 months is like a long time, and it's kind of just like, but I'll explain my reason behind that. So basically, Warlords of Draenor, and the way I look at it right now, like from the perspective of Tryon, this is kind of like my view on what they're doing, is they're like, oh yeah, we're going to get the expansion out before the Warlords of Draenor, or else nobody's going to play Rift, because they want to play WoW instead. Well, in this case, it will be. Everyone's going to play Rift, they're going to get bored in like a week, and then they're going to go like, oh, what else is out? Warlords of Draenor, oh, we'll go play that, because that's the only, like, game where they've actually, like, done months and months of beta and alpha testing, and actually, you know, gone through tons of stuff for their players over and over again to make sure everything is balanced and good. You can say what you like about World of Warcraft being, you know, a simple dumbed-down game, but they have put in the time to do that quality assurance, that testing, making sure people like stuff. At least the majority of people do, and think they're a good idea. endgame currencies weren't in Nightmare Tide Alpha until like a couple of days ago, literally. Like, you didn't have the raid marks or the expert marks. I don't know how that's going to balance out, or if there are going to be sort of like any exploitable ways to do that. Also exploits, there are probably going to be exploits, along with a plethora of bugs here and there, but because not enough people have done this stuff over and over again to crack all of the bugs. Storm Legion did have a lot of bugs on release, and that had a month and a bit long beta. So yeah, I just believe that it's terrible releasing it next week. So yeah, what was I going to talk about? Okay, yeah, so this is what my vision would be, like how I'd ideally like them to do it. This is just a total, like, complete wish on a star, but my like, dream would be on Friday's live stream, they go, okay guys, we fucked up. We're a bit too ambitious for Nightmare Tide's release day. The expansion as it is a good expansion, but we want to make a great expansion, the best MMO experience you've ever had, and we're going to deliver that to you with Rift Nightmare Tide. And then push the release day back 2 months. I'm sure no one would care. Like, generally, no one apart from a small handful of people who've maybe booked a week off work or a couple of days off work would care. And anybody that really does care about Rift and the future of this game would totally understand. Like, I personally would. If you talk to, like, also, like, 80% of alpha testers, you can talk to people like Techie Will, who else do we have? Just, like, all the people from Apotheosis, just anybody in alpha, Calendrios, the Waki even, just anyone and everyone, and anybody that has spent about more than 5 hours in the game will tell you it is not ready for release next week. Heck, it is open beta. If you guys think that I am exaggerating, you can log on to the PTS right now. I challenge you to play the game for 10 hours and then come here and tell me that the game is ready for release. I personally challenge you to do that. So if you don't believe a word that I am saying, and you have done that, then I challenge you to do that and tell me exactly what you think, if it is ready for release, and give your reasons why, because I'd love to hear that. But personally, anyway, back to my point, what I was saying is I would like them to delay it for 2 months. I want them to wait until Wall of Draenor releases, everybody goes, this is a bit of a naff expansion, what else is out there? And boom, Rift Nightmare Tide comes in. They have, like, the raids ready. I don't even know if the raids are actually going to be ready on release. Like, that's also another thing. I mean, they haven't confirmed whether or not Glacial Moor, Mount Shirax is going to be ready for release. I really hope it is. Like, Mount Shirax itself looks like an amazing raid, and so does the Ren of Fate. My main concerns are they're not going to give the attention and love and tuning that they deserve as good raids. I mean, in terms of story, in terms of bosses, in terms of basic mechanics, they look awesome. Really awesome. But, yeah, anyway, I'm getting sidetracked all over the place here. As I warned earlier, it's a rambling video. So, what I'd like them to do is wait till Warlords of Draenor releases. Everybody goes, oh, what's new? They hit Rift. It's an amazing expansion. They put the time, love, and care it deserves. What else would I like to see? Well, I'd like to see another 20-man raid lined up. They need to get that in pretty damn fast. I'd like to see some Duo Chronicles. They are cutting down, like, I don't know, the, I believe it's about 9 Chronicles that they have now. So the Chronicles are something that I love to do on a daily basis to 1. And there's probably not going to be another Chronicle for, like, another, like, 3 months to half a year. So they need to have more Chronicles in the game. Like, they're a very essential part of the game, at least for a player like myself. And I really kind of struggle to understand what they're doing. Anyway, sorry. Also, I would love to see some open PvP encouragement. I've seen none of it at the moment, and with the sort of gear balancing that they've done and the normalization of the gear, so they've kind of like merged both PvP and PvE gear together, it is the perfect time to try out some crazy open world PvP stuff. I know that isn't the focus of the game, but you could try some stuff and it would just be, it'd be cool, you know. You could turn like an area of Tarkin Glacier into, like, I don't know, some sort of battleground. I'm just pulling stuff out of my ass. Essentially, I'd love to see some world PvP somewhere. More zone events, instant adventure. I'd like to see some weird and wacky events in just certain places. It just needs a lot more love and care, the expansion. I know that's like very general, but there's just stuff across the board that I think needs to be revisited, looked at, or else you're just going to put out a half-assed expansion. And, you know, I don't know, this is just my personal opinion. Am I going to play Nightmare Tide? Of course I am. I do love Rift, I do love the game, but this is my personal opinion, and I did want to get it out there that I don't think the expansion should be released next week, and I really, really want it to be delayed. So, sorry guys for the excessive rambling in this video, and if none of it made sense, then I am very sorry for that. But I hope you somewhat enjoyed the video if you have gotten this far. Anyways, take care, have a wonderful day, and we will see you next week for the launch of Rift Nightmare Tide. Well, hopefully not the launch, hopefully the delayed announcement of Rift Nightmare Tide. But if it does launch, then whoop-de-doo. Well, we're in for a fun time, Anyways, take care, ladies and gents. Have a great day. Bye.